Hello everyone. So we are going to learn how we can add map elements and how we can actually save as an image. So this is the list that we will be working on today, preparing the layers and then adding and creating a new project for the layer and then map elements one by one. We will add them, and then at the end we are going to export them in a map. Now we are going to prepare our layers. So we gave you the project, but you can also bring the vectors we are actually showing you on the map. So you can see we have the equator settlements, main roads, rivers, land use, and then we also have the South American layer. So you can use the South American layer underneath your equator land use. So you can see we can drag and drop anywhere all these layers. So we are going to locate using the identity tool. So you can see I selected the identity tool, and then on a polygon you can see which country it is. So you can say I selected one of the country, and it shows the name of the country. Now we are going to keep the South American layer at the bottom of all layers. Now we are going to use the South American layer, but we are going to change the symbol. So you can see I selected the layer properties, and then I'm going to use the symbol that we have as a gray one fill. So you can use other ones if you want. Say okay. Now you can see it's actually grayed out. And then now we are going to select the equator land use, and then equator land use, it's above the South American layer. That's why we can see it. It takes some time to load. Just give it a few minutes. Now we are going to create a new layout project to add all the elements. So at first we need to go to the project and then new print layout, and then give it a name. This is the most important part. Do not give it a gap, just add and maybe underline, underscore to avoid any gaps, and say okay, so that you are going to add all elements in this window. So let's add map elements one by one. So on this white area we are going to add all the elements. Now you can see I have selected the adds a new map to the layout, that tool. So you can see I am locating where I would like to add the map. It takes a few seconds to add the map. Just wait a bit. Now you can see the map we created. It's added on this area, the rectangle we added. On the layout of this map, we are going to add other elements if you want. So you can see we have the item properties. So on the item properties you can change the scale. So let's make it maybe increase the scale. Now added a little bit so that we can zoom in, actually zoom out, and you can make it zoom in, zoom out, whatever you want. So you can see we added the map. I'm interested to add the scale. You can see I selected the scale. Now I'm going to place it somewhere. Feel free to add anywhere you want. So you can see I placed somewhere where I found a space, but you can change the segments. So you can see I'm increasing the scale bar using the more option. So you can increase, decrease, and then you can also add other elements. So you can see I selected the arrow, and then whenever we select anything you will see it's listed on the item, and anytime you can remove them. So you can see I just added an arrow, but we don't need it. We can just go to the items and then delete it. You can right click and then delete. But we are mainly interested to add an arrow, north arrow. So you can see I selected the north arrow, and then I added on a suitable place. So you can add it anywhere. Feel free to add anywhere. And you can go to the item properties to change the color, to change the font. Feel free to add anything. You can see if I don't like it, I can delete it anytime. And then I'm mostly interested to add it from the add item on the toolbar. So you can see all items are also listed in here. So you can add not arrow from here. So let's say I added the not arrow, but I want to change the symbol. So you can see I'm adding other symbols. So you can see search the directories, and then you can use other symbols. Then you can add that. And I'm changing the color. That's not the important part. The important item is that you are adding a not arrow. And after adding the not arrow, I'm going to add a title on this map. So you can say I selected the text, and then I'm adding a title. So you can add on the item property, so you can write it down. You can use the same title we are adding, or you can use other ones, and then we can change the font underneath on the item properties. You can change the font. Let's say we want to add it on the center. You can select the center, and then you can drag anywhere you want. Let's save it. Now I'm going to add a rectangle around the map. So you can say I selected the rectangle, and then you can change the color just like we did before on the map elements. So you can see I'm adding the transparent color for the fill, so that we can see what we have underneath, and then you can save it. And then we can also add the legend. So you can say I selected the legend option, and then where we want to add the legend, we selected that. We can drag the legend outside the map area where you want to add them. So you can say I added it here, but I would like to change the labels, and then maybe deselect the auto update, and then each name select them, and rewrite the names, the proper names. Since it was the variable name, now we are going to change it to a shorter name. So you can say I said settlements, and then same thing for other labels. So I'm changing and giving them smaller names. Roads, main roads, and then we have South American layer. So we can say this is just a border. You can say border, and then anywhere you can drag and drop them. For the land use, all we want is that give it a shorter name, and then change the category. Maybe let's look at the categories we have. So inside the land use, you can see all these categories are there, but for one of them we don't have any label, so we are going to delete that. So you can select and delete. If you want, you can change the font, and then font of the groups. So item is the land use categories, and then you can change them if you want. And then land use is the subgroup font, so you can make it a center to make it look nice. You can add anything you want. And then you can see I'm adding other fonts, and then moving them around, maybe in the center, maybe on the left. And you can change other names too. Similarly, you can add a title on the legend. So you can see, you select the legend, and then on the title you can say this is a legend, and then you can keep it on the center, and then you can change the font of this title if you want. Now we are going to add a frame around the legend. To add a frame, we again need to select the rectangle. So you can say I'm selecting a shape, and then select the rectangle, and then around the legend add that rectangle. So you can see I selected it. Now I'm adding around it, but the issue is that it's going to overlap. You cannot see the legend. What we need to do, we need to make it transparent, but we need to add just the border. So you can select the item properties. From the item properties you can just select the make it transparent, the fill, and then just add the border. You need to adjust it, so you can see it's touching the last line. So I'm going to move it around, or you can make it larger if you want. For any of the shape you can move and then place it on a suitable place. Now we are going to move our north arrow. If you can move it, if it's stuck, all you need to do is to move the rectangle first, then you can move it. If it's not movable, then you can follow that step, because sometimes it's stuck underneath. We can also add another map on this map area. So you can see I selected some space. I'm going to add another map. It's actually coming from my map elements, map window. Now we are going to add the lock layer. Lock layer should be added on the previous map one. So lock layer and lock style, these are really important one. If you don't lock them, then you will see that it's actually gone from your map. So map one, select the lock options, those two options. Okay, now let's go back to where we were adding the layers. So you can see we are deselecting the options since we are going to add on our map 2, the small map. So whatever you do on this map, and then it will be actually added on your layout. So you can see if you refresh, it will be actually showing what you added. Let's go back to our map, and then we are going to add the South American layer, but we need to change the layout option. So you can see I'm going to the South American layer and then categorize them. So once we have the name of the countries, we can add the names and from the classify, and then you can see we have different countries, so we can keep all of them as a gray layout. You can select other options. So you can see gray one fill is the best. So we are doing it for all of them except the equator, because the equator is our main interest. So you can see we are doing it for all of them so that we can see just the border. So for equator, you can add a different color as a fill so that we can see it on our small map. Other countries, just add the border. Okay, and apply. Okay, let's go back to our print layout. Over here, if you refresh, then you can see that it's going to show just the equator as a red color. So you can see, let's make it smaller so that we can zoom out, so that we can show the entire country, entire South America I just showed. So you can see the red one is the equator. That's what we are going to show. And then you can adjust the map. After adjusting, you can add a border, just like what we did before. You can do yourself, just add the border using the rectangle option, and then just add border, and then say no fill, and fill should be transparent so that we can see the map. Now we are going to add the name of the bordering country. So you can see I added a text, so I say that that's the area where we have Colombia. You can change the font from the item properties. Any font you think should be appropriate, you can add that. Now we are going to add other country. You can select the text, and then you can add another country. We are going to add Peru, and then similarly we are going to use the same font to make it look nice. Okay. So you can adjust any of the element you want. Now I'm going to add more information on this map. So what are the sources, who is the creator of this map, and what's the date. The date and name are the two most important one for our assignment. So you have to write down your name. So you can see I'm changing the font, and you can write down your name, and you can also write down the date, but you need to adjust them. You can place it anywhere, wherever you will find some space, you can add it there. You can add the date when you created it. You should not leave it blank, you should add date and your name. And then you can place it inside the map. So you can see I just dragged and placed it inside the map. Okay, so now I'm going to add sources. So you will see that I gave you the sources on the module, on the assignments page, also on the layers you will see jet sources. So you can copy the sources from this text file, just copy. And paste it here, and then adjust the font. After adjusting the font, we are going to add a border. This is not terribly important, but if you want, you can add a border in around your source. So that's the last step we are going to work on. So we are going to save our map. To save our map, we can do it from the layout. So we can go to the layout and then select the layout option, and then select the page setup. So you will see I will select the page setup, and then I can select the A4 size page, or I can select letter, and then I can select the orientation. It could be landscape. So you can say I selected landscape, then I'm going to add or save it as an image. So I selected the image option, and then I'm going to locate where I want to save it, and I gave it a name and then save it. So your map is saved. So you can locate where you saved. So you can see I'm locating where I saved it, and I'm going to open, so you can see I saved this map. So we are going to look at all the elements we showed in this video.